What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with Samson Dao and his recent physique update. So this is the breakfast of a guy who is 300 pounds and that too on the stage. I mean just 3 whole eggs and a black coffee. How the hell does this guy maintains all that size and all that mass? And I'm sure most of you guys know that this has been the typical prep breakfast for Samson Dao for the last few years or so. And it is so surprising that how does he maintains that muscle size with so little food. So we got to see another glimpse of Samson Dao training shoulders today. Now the man looks big and round and the dead face is already coming in, meaning he is pushing beyond the limits. He is pushing harder than ever, harder than he has ever pushed before. So after this year's Arnold Classic, especially the one in UK, where Samson brought a great look to the stage. I mean he was more separated, more detailed. His skin also looked thinner, especially in comparison to what we saw at the Arnold, Ohio. He was able to bring a lot better conditioning than that. But the thing is, he still lost to Hadi Chan. And the only feedback he got by the experts and by the judges was that maybe he needs to dig deeper, maybe suffer a bit more, and go that extra mile, and try to close that conditioning gap between him and Hadi and Derek, especially if he wants to be an Olympia title contender. And you better believe he is doing all that for 2024 Miss Olympia. So Samson believes that he has closed that conditioning gap between him, Derek and Hadi. And that makes it very clear for all the top competitors that only 2 guys actually matter. And they are the ones who beat him in 2023. And of course they are number 1 and number 2 bodybuilders in the world right now. So all these other top guys like Nick, Andrew, Hunter and all those others, Samson Dao has already beaten all of those guys. So I believe at his personal best, Samson Dao won't be anything outside of that top 3. He will be top 3 once again at least, if he shows up at his 100%. Next up is the update of the Persian Wolf Hadi Chan, another day closer to the Olympia this year. The show where he lost the Olympia title to Derek last year, and he just cannot wait to be back on that stage. So still, I have to say a majority of the bodybuilding community, the experts, the fans, they still believe to this day that Hadi Chan was the rightful winner last year. Well, that is in the past now, and we are gonna witness another rematch, round number 3, another fierce match between both these amazing bodybuilders in just a few more weeks. So as of right now, they are 1-1. So this is the one which is gonna decide who is the undisputed champion. So all of us do realize what Hadi Chan is trying to accomplish here, losing the Olympia title and then winning it back again. So Phil Heath could not do it. Ronnie Coleman could not do it either. And they are the greatest of the sport. So only one man has accomplished this task, and that is the legendary Jay Cutler. So the captions that Hadi Chan posts, they are just so intense. And the thing is, that is reflected in his training videos as well. And how he trains like an absolute beast. Even when we are this close to the show, he's training like an animal in the gym. So I think we can all agree, Hadi Chan is a far better bodybuilder right now compared to 2019. When he made his Olympia debut, especially the way Hadi showed up for this year's Arnold, and he just shut everyone up. That was an absolute slam dunk, and that too against a guy like Samson Dao. So if you guys remember, a lot of people actually had Samson Dao winning this year's Arnold just a few weeks out, because Hadi wasn't at his best at the Olympia last year, and boy did he came to battle guns blazing. So the fact that Hadi wants redemption in 3 weeks time, that makes him the most dangerous bodybuilder entering this year's Miss Olympia. Next up is the update from Rafael Breon, the pride of Brazil, getting ready for his 2nd Miss Olympia ever. So Rafael Breon is a very fierce competitor. He isn't afraid of anyone. He doesn't shy away from stepping on the stage against anyone. And we saw his confidence at this year's Arnold against a guy like Samson Dao. And we did saw that back in 2022 as well. When he made his Olympia debut, we saw him step right next to Big Ramy, who was the reigning Miss Olympia at that time. He was so confident during that pose down, and when the judges put him right next to Samson Dao at this year's Arnold, he did not shy away from that fight either. And he was actually really impressive at this year's Arnold, his best ever so far. So that is the standard to beat for Breon. And considering that he shut the season down after this year's Arnold South America, and he had a few months of very productive off-season, I am 100% sure that he will be a few pounds heavier compared to what we saw at this year's Arnold. So all he has to do is to bring that same conditioning, or maybe something even better than that, than what we saw at this year's Arnold, Ohio. And if he can nail the conditioning, he might be on the edge of that first call out, maybe as high as 7th. So typically we have 6 guys in that first call out, and unless some of these top guys, they miss their mark, they're coming off, I think Rafael is gonna have a hard time sneaking past those guys. And the reason is, I think we can all agree he still lacks some size. He still lacks the thickness, especially in comparison to those top guys. But that being said, I think he will definitely expose a lot of them in the symmetry and the aesthetics department. So some of the top judges, like theMartian, they really like Rafael's physique and the way he has been training all these months. I have to say he isn't messing around. Next up is the physique update from Breon, a true legend of classic physique division and the only man who hasn't missed a single Miss Olympia ever since this division was created back in 2016. Now, if Breon did not have all those top Olympia placings and his chances of cracking top 5 for this year's Miss Olympia, if we analyze that, I think most of us would say that this is gonna be so hard for this guy to be in the top 5 again this year. Because as of right now, there are plenty of other competitors who look way better at 3.5 weeks out of this year's Miss Olympia than Breon. But the thing is, as he gets into that peak week and really dials it in, there comes out so much detail, so much separation and that crazy conditioning. And he stands out every damn year. So the guy is 44 years old, and he was able to beat Orskleshinsky at this year's Arnold in UK, which really speaks volumes on how great Breon really is. So Wesley Weezers, on the other hand, he wasn't very impressed with Breon's look at this year's Dubai Pro. Yes, he won it with perfect scores, but the thing is, he really did not have any competition at that show challenging him, and things will be totally different when he stands next to guys like Ramon and Fazi and of course Chris Bumstead. So that nickname, the bias coach, that has been dedicated to Milos Sarcev since he always favors his guys, and a little too much I'm gonna say. But seeing Chris Cormier putting Bjorn Ansley in 2nd place behind Chris Bumstead, I'm gonna say that makes him more biased than Milos Sarcev. So for Breon to place 2nd behind Chris Bumstead, and for him to beat guys like Ramon Dino and Wesley Weezers and even Orskleshinsky, they need to miss their mark, and that too by quite a long shot. And I don't think whether that's even possible at this point, especially after what we saw at this year's Arnold, Ohio, where Ramon beat him so convincingly while not even being close to his personal best. So next up we have an update from Martin-Fitzwater. So this was taken at 4 weeks out of this year's Mr. Olympia, which by the way is gonna be his Olympia debut. So Martin, with that kind of structure, he's gonna pose a real threat, I'm gonna say, to the top 6 this year as well. So if anyone skips just a little bit, if anyone misses it, Martin is gonna be really dangerous for them. I mean, Nick Walker was just a tiny bit off for this year's New York Pro. I mean, Nick Walker exactly wasn't off. It's just that his waistline was looking a little bit more thicker, especially in comparison to the past, and he was pushed to the absolute limits by Martin. And that is the same momentum that he has been carrying all this year. So Martin and his coach Stefan, they are aiming to come in a few pounds heavier, with the same or maybe even better conditioning than what we saw at the New York Pro. So Martin has got a lot of hype behind him this year. In fact, out of all the guys who are making their Olympia debuts this year, Martin is being rated the highest, especially in terms of that bracket where he is gonna land. And to think that this guy is just 27 years old and getting this much praise all around. Where theMartian mentioned his name, that he expects Martin to be right up there, fighting with some of the biggest names of the industry who are gonna be in the first call out. That is just absolutely insane. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.